Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Thursday, March 10th, 2022. And you're probably wondering, like, wait, it's a Thursday. What's going on? Well, we have our inaugural super special movie review of The Batman, right? This is once again the Now Mind You podcast. I'm TJ.
I'm Matt.
And this is our first review, but we are both super hyped on this movie, and it's definitely in our wheelhouse. Let's get into it. Before we go any further, right? We're gonna kind of structure it this way, right? We're gonna get into a spoiler-free summary. We'll get into a review full of spoilers, and we'll give you guys a little warning when we're about to hit the review, and then we'll end it with our rating. Before we go any further, let's give a little bit more context to The Batman, right? This movie was directed by Matt Reeves. Who are the writers, Matt?
The writers are Matt Reeves and Peter Craig.
And we also got to give a shout out to the cinematographer, Greg Fraser. All right. Let's get into the spoiler-free summary. I mean, if you've seen the trailer, you kind of get a sense of what's going on in this movie. And Matt, feel free to to fill in the blanks too if I miss any gaps. But essentially, we are thrown into Gotham, where we have a young Batman who's 2 years in the game, and he's dealing with his first super antagonist in the Riddler, right? We get our Catwoman, we get our Penguin, but the gist of the movie is it's basically Batman solving these crimes, solving these riddles, and trying to get to the bottom of what appears to be a massive conspiracy. I don't think this is a spoiler, but it's also Batman figuring out his voice, right? Going from vengeance to going into something more. I think that kind of sums it up. No? What do you think, Matt?
I would say so. Yeah, we get, in a way, we get a very early version of Batman. Spoiler free, obviously. But we get an early version, not necessarily year one, but from what we understand, he's been Batman for some time. Enough that he's established enough within the city that they know who he is.
Right. I mean, without giving anything away, we now have a bat signal, just to give you guys a sense of where things are in terms of his career, right? But that's about it for the spoiler-free summary. Spoiler warning now. Spoiler warning. Spoiler a warning. If you have not seen this movie, or you don't plan on seeing this movie in theaters, but you're waiting until streaming, this right here, this is your warning, right? Pause it, or if you want to skip all the way to the end to our rating of the film, do what you got to do. We'll definitely have timestamps in the description. But as of this moment right here, we're going to go into our review, into our thoughts, and there will be spoilers. You have been warned.
If you watched it.
Listen, you know how Matt is. And to be fair, I'm the same way too. This is why we have a podcast, right?
You had time.
This is why we have a podcast. So, hey, it ain't personal. It ain't personal, but this is what we do, right? So going forward, this is our spoiler full review. Now, we kind of have this structured in an interesting manner. We both took a bunch of notes, and I kind of broke it down into 4 categories, right? We have the story, we have the cinematography, we got the character design, and of course, some other thoughts. In terms of our notes, they're kind of all over the place in terms of the movie timeline, but let's just get into it, starting with the story. First thing I noticed, especially toward the end of the movie, was how we saw the evolution of the reactions around the Batman figure, right? The start of the movie, you see, especially when he's fighting all these, I'm going to call them Jokers, because that's what they reminded me of. Shout out Batman.
That's basically what they are.
He's fighting all these Jokers, and once he fights them, also a fun fact, that one kid who had the half Joker face paint on, that was the guy who's playing Tim Drake in fucking Titans. But
shout out to him.
Shout out to him. I think Jay Licurgo, or something like that. But shout out to him being in 2 different DC, well, 2 different but the same franchise, right? Anyway, Batman quickly dispatches all these people, and you can see right off the bat that his fighting style is not as polished as what we've come to know from the films. But homie's doing damage. He's truly embodying the terror to crime that is Batman, right?
But he seems angry.
Yeah. Yeah,
It
that's a
didn't
big
seem
thing.
like he was going through, like when he fights these guys, it's not Batman just trying to take care of these guys. It was like he was punishing them.
Yeah,
Like he was hurting these guys, man. I mean, Batman hurts people anyway, but he seemed specifically really pissed off.
It was on some MMA type, like, I'm not stopping until the ref pulls me off, but there's no ref.
There is no ref.
You know what I mean? There's no ref. But interesting enough, right? As soon as he gets past these dudes, he approaches a civilian, or at least looks at the civilian. The civilian's like scared out of their mind, and they say, "What? Don't hurt me.
Please don't hurt me.
Please don't hurt me." Right? Now you compare that to the reaction at the end once everybody in the stadium, Gotham Square Garden is safe. Like, you see a civilian who's getting strapped down to what appears to be a gurney attached to a chopper, right? Hugging him, holding onto his hand, like looking at him for reassurance. So like immediately you see like it went from this dude is terrifying to I feel safe only with him. Like, don't leave me. I don't know these helicopter folks. You're the dude who saved me. Please make sure, like, give me some type of reassurance that I'm going to be safe. So I thought that was a very good evolution just for Batman's narrative, right? I really appreciated that Matt Reeves and Peter Craig made a deliberate choice not to show Batman's origins, or for what it's worth, like his training arc. If you want to compare it to like, the Nolan trilogy and even like how they rehashed the origin in Batman v Superman, right? What were you about to say, Matt?
Well, I was going to say the biggest thing that we get going into this is Batman has been Batman for 2 years already.
Yeah.
So with that, we get a wealth of things with the fact that the city is familiar with him. He's established, honestly, that level of fear, and he's already using, the things that we have heard mentioned in other films, the fear and theatrics. He's using things like that, using the darkness, and it's shown early in the movie that when that signal is up and there's, kind of a level of darkness or an abyss that you can't see,
they're questioning that
Batman
shadow
is in it.
Yeah.
Like he even says, I am the shadows. Like they can't hide in the shadows because I am the shadows.
Yeah.
And I mean, we see all manner of criminals because Gotham is a crime-ridden city, but we see all manner of criminals stopping in their place.
Because they're just not 100% sure. They're like, you know what? I'm going to just run.
I'm cool on this graffiti because Bruce could be right there. I mean, Batman, but still, you know how it's going.
Yeah. I thought it was cool too. Like, they didn't show the origin, but they kind of took a little bit of artistic license with it to fit the overall narrative, the overarching narrative of the story with the whole conspiracy that ties Riddler, Batman, and I guess like, the underworld of Gotham, like Carmine Falcone, and even to a certain, I guess, Selena Kyle, though, like not as direct, but it ties them all together, right?
Yeah, they do a good job of showing that Gotham has an extremely thick criminal underbelly.
Yeah.
And showing that a lot of very powerful political figures and just figures in general, even the police, are all tied into crime and corruption and things of that nature. Like no one's
untouchable, right?
No one's untouchable.
Even the Waynes were wrapped into it. I like in this movie, especially with the story, I really enjoyed how, because this also just highlights how new or how early in his career this Batman is, but he was always essentially a step behind the Riddler, right? Like, think about it, like when he has that confrontation, right, in Arkham Asylum, right, albeit, between the glass or whatever, it's like he still didn't know what the Riddler's overall final plan was. He was like, oh, I gave you too much credit. I thought you were a lot smarter than you were. And I was like, wait, what? At that point, I thought the movie was over too. And then they hit us with that. I was like, yo, that was a good twist. That was a really good twist. But I really enjoyed there were so many things about this that made sense when you put it in the frame of he's early in his career as Batman. Like, up to this point, he probably has not faced a villain of this caliber. And that'll take me into another thought later on when I talk about like our other thoughts, right? But in terms of the story, it was also cool to see how Bruce, well, really Batman, because this was not a Bruce Wayne movie. This was a Batman movie, right? How Batman, with his narration through his journals, gave us the time frame. All of this took place in a week, from October 31st to November 6th. Why is this so significant? Because basically the Riddler destroyed Gotham in 1 week. Like, that's pretty wild. That is very wild. Man, I don't even know. Like, it was just, this is just important to know. I absolutely loved, dude, the crime scenes where it was like, all right, especially after Mayor Mitchell got murked. And that was literally like the start of the movie, right?
Mayor Mitchell, a body out the gate.
Yeah, like they waste no time. And it was funny too. Like I misinterpreted it, like, because I ended up seeing it twice, scheduling snafu with friends and whatnot. So I ended up having to see it twice, but I'm not mad. But the first time I saw it, and I was like, it was the Riddler kind of stalking the Mitchell family through his binoculars. I thought they were going to rehash the origin. I was like, oh, I'm assuming that's little Bruce Wayne playing with the sword. When I
saw that, that's exactly what I thought. I was like, so we are opening with the Waynes getting bodies.
Right. And then it switched up to be like Mayor Mitchell. I was like, what? And then when Riddler makes that first appearance, dude, I was like, yo. Like,
it's true horror. Not even horror, but it
thriller.
Definitely was like, it's thriller for sure.
Yeah.
Like, it'll really throw you off to even consider the fact that this movie is PG-13, because I never once felt like that was the movie I was seeing. Yeah. And when the mayor is walking back and forth talking on the phone and the light, from the TV flashes and the Riddler is standing right behind him.
And you don't even see the glint off of his glasses. You just see the silhouette. That's what kind of made it like kind of scary. It's like, whoa, like, this is the tone we're setting. Okay, Matt Reeves. Okay, Peter Craig. All right, let's get into this. And it was brutal, of course. Like it was a brutal murder, like with a blunt object. I think it was like, was it a carpet tucker?
Yeah. Which ultimately was there was some symbolism to that as well. Later on in the film also. But I kind of want to stay on that scene for a second, because that was, and we've talked about this off air and things like that for sure. Like, one of the biggest things that I had complained about, like just in any of the previous Batman films, and not in all of them, but just in some, like, I want to see Batman be a detective.
Listen,
what I grew up with was not just Batman stopping crime and stopping bank robberies and stuff, but solving crimes.
Yep.
Like, he's essentially vigilante police.
The movie delivered on that request immediately.
Yeah.
Like within the first 10 minutes. Like, for one, seeing him and Gordon side by side on the crime scene, like, I think I almost just got emotional, because I was like, Matt and I were just complaining about this in episode 8 of our podcast, which you should listen to if you don't already follow us. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, check it out. But yeah, just check it out. Hit up our follow page. Shout out. Like this was Detective Batman, and I remember when I saw this in theaters, I like texted Matt as soon as I come out. I was like, dude, when are you going to see this movie? And I didn't want to tell him. I didn't want to tell you. Right? I was like, I didn't want to tell you. Like, I was like, in my heart, I was like, Matt is gonna love this. Like this. And then we got to give a special shout out to Officer Martinez, just coming out like, hey, what you think you're doing, bro? This is police business. And like, Gordon just be like, he's with me. And can we just say, I didn't know how I was gonna feel about Jeffrey Wright being Jim Gordon.
Oh, you tripping.
Man.
Jeffrey Wright can do anything.
But so here's the thing, like I tried watching Westworld and I couldn't get past the first episode, and I never got into the Hunger Games franchise, but like, as someone with relatively little familiarity with his work, I thought he was fucking awesome. Like, that dude is a Jim Gordon, bro.
Let me tell you something, man. Jeffrey Wright is one of the most malleable actors out there. This dude can do virtually anything. Like, this guy was in Ali. He was in the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. Like, This guy was in Cadillac Records. You know, he's been in Boardwalk Empire, Venture Bros, BoJack Horseman. Like he's been in or on some of everything.
Jeffrey Wright's been in BoJack Horseman?
Yeah.
No way. Oh, I gotta check that later. Like,
yeah.
Like BoJack Horseman is something else. We could have a podcast on that. But I was gonna say, yeah, no, he was amazing as Jim Gordon. Like, just to highlight it, those scenes inside of the police station, man, is like, hey, this is not the way to do this. Like, I was like, my dude has his whole hand on Batman's chest, giving Batman the finger to the face. I was like, my dude, you are a brave individual. It's like, you are a brave individual. He might be the only one. He might just be the only one, my dude. But and the way they collaborated, man. Also, thumb drive. Like, I saw it coming a mile away,
man.
But it was gross and funny. Like, Riddler's got a sense of humor for sure.
I really enjoyed those moments early on where we get out the gate, we get Detective Batman, that we get the team up.
Yep.
You know, and again, going back to this is early for everybody, right?
Yeah.
Because Jim Gordon is not a commissioner. He's just a lieutenant. He has a man to answer to already.
Yeah. And you can tell like he's already low-key on thin ice because of all of his collaboration with the Batman.
Right. And also showing how early in Batman's career and how early in, you know, Gotham dealing with Batman this is still that level of uneasiness with the police when they see him.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And you know, later on, he's pretty much expected to be at the crime scene. I mean, like I can remember reading comics and situations where they're like, Jim, where's the Batman? He's like, he's handling other stuff tonight.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay. You know, like, so he's still Jim is still trying to work his way up through the rankings as well. And Batman is kind of working a little bit on his relations with the police. And that does get tested and strained a little bit later on in the film
in
as
that
well.
Scene where they're in the police station. Like, and also that was just a beautiful scene. Like them teaming, I was like, hey, like just like the face to face and like kind of like making that body language like they're having a heated argument / whispers like, hey, you need to get out of here. Like, I want you to hit me, you know, fake it, grab these keys and head out. You know, it was just shout out Jeffrey Wright. I might just go back and check out more of his work after this.
Definitely should.
I was very happy with his performance. I will say that. Next bullet point I had in terms of the story, and guys, a lot of these categories are going to bleed into each other. These are just, again, this was me just trying to organize a lot of my thoughts here, but man, I gotta give it up for that Batmobile, dude. Jesus. Like, okay, in terms of my favorite Batmobiles, obviously the iconic Batmobile from the animated series, which was inspired in part by the 89 Michael Keaton Batman film. Shout out Tim Burton. But like this Batmobile was as raw as this young version of Batman. Like, this really looked like, yo, I got all these, I got all this money. I need to build myself an indestructible car. Like, let's also talk about the Batcave too. Like, before we even get into the Batmobile, let's talk about the Batcave. Let's just talk about all Batman stuff, right? I like how, we also need to mention Wayne Manor, which in this universe is a penthouse, right? So it's safe to assume that this Batcave, I think I would assume, well, no, you got to assume because there's an elevator, right? Alfred's able to access it and everything. But this Batcave was definitely like in the underground, right? Underneath the foundation of the building or part of the foundation of the building. And I couldn't tell what it said in that like one, like I want to say gigantic entryway. It said like Wayne something. You know what I'm talking about? Like when he's like, he just pulled in with his bike and he's walking into the cave or whatever.
Yeah,
it described like Wayne something or other,
but you can't really see what it is.
You can't really see it. But like that Batcave looked as raw as, and when I say raw, I don't mean cool. I just mean like rugged, utilitarian, like just enough to do what you got to do, if that makes sense.
His first 2 years, Batman. Yeah, you know,
like that
he hasn't really had time to build it up.
Even his equipment had that vibe, right? Although the Batsuit was very like dope. very advanced. But even it had like its like little rugged appeal to it. But the way that Batcave is set up was cool. Like how the car was just on like a ramp and covered in a car cover for the most part. Has his Bat computer, has like all these gadgets laid out, had the engine pieces laid out, like he's been, working on that engine in his spare time. Just like the technology, it's like, yes, it's 2 years early in his career, but it was definitely a Batman film and a Batman project, and like how his tech was on point, even that suit, as rugged as it looked, like he had a built-in squirrel suit, right? He was definitely utilizing his utility belt throughout. Like the utility belt wasn't there for decoration. Like if you look at the Nolan trilogy, and I'm sorry for comparing, I know it might be too early to compare, but I didn't really get the impression that Batman was really utilizing his utility belt as much in the Nolan trilogy. Batfleck, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, maybe a little more. Definitely, I want to say Keaton, as far as I can remember, utilized it some, but in this one, there was some utility belt usage. And the utility belt itself it was also rugged looking, right? It was like, this is all the stuff I need to do what I need to do. I'm gonna keep all like if you look at the belt buckle, it was an asymmetrical looking utility belt. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. There wasn't much to hate. There was a lot to love in the suit. The cowl, like even when we see him come out of the shadows for the first time, you can tell it's already battered and chipped at. Like there were some bullet markings, so on and so forth. Like,
shit, because bro don't have no night off.
Yeah, no, he did not.
He working every night. He literally says that he's becoming a nocturnal animal.
Yeah.
But, let me pull it back real quick because you jumped like, man, you was leaping tall buildings in a single bound. I thought this was Batman.
I went from the Batmobile to
you ain't even get a Batmobile a chance, brother.
Yeah, I was like, okay. Go ahead, say what you were gonna say. Then I'm gonna get back to the Batmobile.
I'm bringing it back to the Batmobile. I thought the Batmobile, it is very accurate to where Batman is in his career. Number one.
Rugged.
It was rugged, and it's essentially a converted muscle car.
Yeah. Built and from like scratch.
Yeah, it looked like it might have built it from scratch or just maybe had a frame and did something with it. But man, when he turns that engine over, the first time we see it on all the time. Like we see it throughout the movie, but the first time we see it in action, the first time we hear that engine come on,
the tone changed.
Man, They do such a good job with the sound design where everything is quiet, despite the fact that a shootout just took place. It's raining, there were explosions and all of that. The minute that engine turns over, it sounds like somebody unleashed a demon in the streets. Yeah. Like even Penguin in that scene looks over and was like, what is that? Right.
Excuse me? Yeah.
What is it? What is that over there? And this car is virtually, from what we see, like indestructible, as a Batmobile should be. You know what I'm saying? And I think even factoring in like where we are in Batman's career at the time and everything, I would argue that it's one of the better Batmobile designs because it feels not necessarily more modernized, but it just feels like it's doing what it's supposed to do for the time. The Nolan one is essentially a tank that also has like an ejectable motorcycle, and that's pretty much what the Batflex Batmobile is like. Also,
I want to say, not to cut you off, like the Batfleck Batmobile was like a combination of the Tumbler and 89. You know what I mean? Like in terms of aesthetics, but in terms of aesthetics, like definitely borrowing from 1989. In terms of like all the weapons and stuff, definitely like Tumbler. But no, I agree with you, man. 100%. Like this was a dope Batmobile. Like the indestructibility, like you said, sounding like a demon and just looking like a muscle car was just, I appreciated that. But there's also something else too. It's like, in terms of like, I want to say stealth and camouflage, I can believe this Batmobile being harder to spot, except for that giant jet in the back when that when that cuts on, right? But like, you know what I mean? Because like the Tumbler, the Batfleck Batmobile, it's like those are very conspicuous looking vehicles. But if you just look at the like even that scene where we see it in action for the first time, no one noticed it until he cut it on. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like nobody noticed it. It was right there the whole time, you know? And yeah, like I want to say just kudos to the sound design too. It's like before you even heard it, it was similar to the whole like before you see him, you hear him, but this sounds like before you heard it, you felt it, right?
Yeah.
Like Selena looks over, Batman's gone, and then you just like feel like this, oh, something's about to go down. Like, you know, like it was just and then it cuts on and you see its silhouette, you know, in those blue flames. And I was like, oh, like this, oh man, this is about to go down. Time. Penguin was just like driving for his life. Like, oh my goodness, man. And I don't know if I'm tripping, but was his cape flying out the back of that thing? Like, does it have a rear windshield?
There is no rear windshield. There's no, the whole back of that car is a whole jet engine, basically.
Right.
Like there's literally the roof and there's no back of the car after that because there's all of that extra engine sitting back.
Because like when he's blowing through those flames, right? Like the car just made that jump. It's like you see his cape flickering, right? It's not just me like tripping or whatever. Like his cape was poking out the back of that thing.
Yeah, probably a little bit for sure. But I thought the Batmobile was dope. And then I'm just gonna follow the path that you had set. Yeah. Going to the Batcave itself and essentially being in Wayne condominiums, basically.
Yeah, there was no real manor in this case, which I thought made sense given the urban setting they really built this world in.
Yeah, and with essentially what it seemed like to me is like what would have been Wayne Manor before, or like, as we have seen in previous films, was actually an orphanage that the Waynes had started.
Yes, so, that is correct.
They make kind of a mention about how or they don't make a mention as much as Riddler does when he's making reference to Bruce Wayne.
I mean, it was a significant plot point.
He sits in his tower looking down on all the rest of the city because clearly they have the penthouse. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
But what I also thought was just interesting was that it is like he's in this Wayne Tower, but it's like his little personal watchtower. You know what I'm saying? Like we don't know what his travel is like in and out the building or up and down in the building, because we definitely see he goes through like an abandoned subway tunnel and back off into another one. Like it's a lot of chutes and ladders and shit trying to get to where he's at. So, he's definitely makes it where it's not easy to get there. He's not easy to find.
Yeah.
But I thought overall that it was designed pretty well. And it just, as usual, there's this huge abundance of space, which is atypical of, his character and things like that. And I just thought that was really cool. What were your thoughts on the Batcave, Wayne Manor, Wayne condominiums, whatever you want to call it?
I love the Batcave. I love how it was also, again, kind of playing into the early Batman phase of his career, right? How it was incomplete. It was still a work in progress, like you could still see that there were like I said, the engine parts, just the computer setup, like even kind of going into the cave, it just had that whole feeling of, like you said, there was a lot of space and not a lot of like concealment per se. Now, obviously to get there, it was amazing to have. And there was like that one gate, right, that opened up automatically as soon as it sensed him, or maybe he sent a signal to it. I don't know. But I truly enjoyed it. Now, one thing I thought I had too is like, we needed to talk about the actual Wayne penthouse. Now, this might be jumping a little bit ahead, right? But there's that one scene where he basically breaks the chains on his parents' bedroom. But there's nothing about, and obviously this could be, the lighting and the fact that we're seeing this in what would be after, his parents got, right?
Mm-hmm.
But nothing about that penthouse felt like a home. Like there was nothing warm about it. And I don't just mean like the fact that it was dark lighting, but like if I were a kid and I grew up there, well, I don't know how I'd view this. Well, are kids really aware of their privilege as kids? This is another whole question. But what I'm trying to get at is like
too deep for the intro.
I'm just trying to say like I feel like I'd be scared to live in there as a kid. Like all those like that gothic architecture in there, like it looks like it's haunted. You know what I mean? It looks like I don't know, like there's some very cold, which yes feeds into a Batcave narrative.
But that's perfect though that it is Wayne cold manner. Because that's kind of
that's where Bruce is
feeling.
At mentally.
Yeah, that's the feeling they want to give you. I mean, I personally feel like there's never been any, Wayne Mansion, Wayne Manor, Wayne anything that's ever felt like very lively. I mean,
I'd imagine once the Robins get into the picture,
I'm sure maybe.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, look, even when we talk about, again, I'm going to mention it because you have to. There have been so many goddamn Batman movies, but like, even if we're talking about like the Batfleck kind of Wayne Manor, the one that was like on the water, that felt cold.
Yeah.
That felt cold still. It felt cold, isolated. Like, that's kind of the feeling. And again, he's like, he's the man sitting in the high tower all alone. Like that's who he is. We deal with Batman being alone. We deal with him only having Alfred and at certain points not even having Alfred and kind of turning his back on him a little bit.
Yeah.
During certain aspects. But it's just, I don't know, man. I thought it was, I wasn't mad at it. And I'm going to kind of jump just a little bit now because I still want you to get your thoughts on this too, but talk to a mutual friend of ours, Chris. Shout out Chris. And when I talked to him about it, he brought up a good point. He was like, there's hardly any Bruce Wayne in this movie. He's Batman.
It's not a Bruce Wayne movie at all.
Of the film. The only time we ever see him be Bruce really is during the funeral scene. And I mean, if we're being honest, he just pretending to be Bruce. Yeah.
That's like no, I 100% agree with this. That like we even said this at the beginning of this, right? It's not this is a Batman movie. This is not a Bruce Wayne film. Like Bruce Wayne was more of a disguise, if anything. He uses Bruce Wayne to infiltrate all the way to Carmine. Like that's when being Bruce is useful to him. You know what I mean? Like this is not a Batman movie. It's like he even says like Alfred confronts him, was like, yo, the accounts are upstairs, bro. You need to go handle this, man. Like, and why are they here? Because I keep trying to get you to go over there, but you can't. So all right, come over here. And I don't even think he talked to those accounts. Dory came and was like, yo,
he never talked to them.
Homie was just focused on the Riddler cipher the whole time. But like, because he even says like Alfred was like, Bruce, you got to focus on this, man. This is your family's legacy. He's like, what I'm doing here, this is my legacy. You know what I mean? And then
he tells him like, we need Bruce Wayne to make an appearance.
It's like, no, fam. And then at the funeral, and this is what part I like, shout out to the actress who played the mayor-elect Bella Real, strong, dark-skinned Black woman, right? Calls him out, was like, hey, the Waynes were known for their philanthropy. What are you doing about that, brother? And he doesn't even, I don't think he answered her the whole time.
He didn't get a chance to.
He didn't, well, no, it's not that he didn't get a chance to, like she was literally, like, she was like, walk with me, right? And he walks with her, but he never actually like talks to her at all.
He never says words, bro.
Never says a word. It was low key like a Western. This man talked when he had to, not when he wanted to. It was actually kind of cool. But we've been talking about. Go ahead.
It was interesting to see, even in the instances where we see him pretend to be Bruce Wayne, he's still pretty much this, I guess is the best way to put it, he's still pretty much this kind of very cold, isolated, and damaged guy. Yeah. He's very focused on one thing. Like he's not at this funeral because it's the right thing to do. He's at this funeral because he believes, because he has to be there, but because he also believes like there's some Riddler action that's going to probably take place.
Yeah.
Which there was.
Yeah. I was gonna say too, like overall, I feel like the film had some good pacing. Now it's a long movie, but it's like I think the only time I felt the length was when I thought it was over, but Riddler hit us with that. But wait, there's more, right? Like I did not see that whole final climactic battle between Batman and the Riddler QAnon. Yeah, I'm gonna call him that. The Riddler QAnon, like happening at all. But I mean, they dropped some hints into it. I thought it was more gonna be like, oh crap, they found out his secret identity. And I got another comment about that. But the other thought I had too was like, in terms of the story, I like that the title cards kind of bookend this film. You start off immediately the Batman, you end immediately the Batman. There was no like long cold open, if you will, or whole movie and then
it was a cold open, all right.
No, hey, good pun. Good. I gotta give you that. I was opened on a cold body.
Yeah, man. It was cold, all right.
Saw a body turn cold. But
for real.
But no, I thought it was like an issue because what have some movies been doing as of late? It's like, well, not even as of late. It's been a thing, right? Where you don't get the title card until the end. But this movie let you know right away what this was about. From like Matt made that joke, the cold open to like there. It was a smart choice. I'll just say that, and it was a choice that I appreciated because it was almost like Matt Reeves and Peter Craig and Greg Fraser telling us, we know you already know the Batman origin. We know you already have a general idea of what Batman is about. Even though this is in its early stages, get this work. We're not going to pull any punches. Let's just get into it. And I
like that because like respect. I like that we were respected as the audience. Like y'all know that we know Batman.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And I was just glad we ain't have to see the Waynes get clapped for like
Saw
the
Uncle Ben get clapped 17 times already in theaters.
Man, boy, it's like his parents get killed in every movie. His parents got killed in Joker.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
His parents get killed in movies that aren't even about him. Like
right.
If they did a Catwoman movie, his parents would get killed.
Like, on some randomness. By the way.
Right.
Oh man.
But I enjoyed that. I enjoyed pretty much the balance of pretty much most of the characters, and I felt like everybody came with their acting shoes on, man.
Dude.
I felt like every performance that was delivered from every character was 100% what it was supposed to be. And if the makeup department
they got to get an award,
some sort of award for that transformation that they did on Colin Farrell. Colin Farrell is unrecognizable. If you didn't even know that was him,
you wouldn't have known. You wouldn't have known. I told my girlfriend that it was Colin Farrell, and she was like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah."
Same. I told my wife, and she was like, I showed her a picture, and she was like, "Is this what he used to look like?" I said, "No, this is his face." She was like, "No, that he looks like this now." I said, "Pretty. That's all makeup." That was all makeup. We was like, "Wow," you know what I'm saying? Like that was amazing.
Side note, what would have to happen to somebody,
man, right, to make them look like that?
I was like, "Yo, there's some scars there that." Gone through a rough patch, the roughest patch. But yeah, no. Let's jump into the cinematography, right? I'm gonna say like cinematography / sound design. We already kind of touched on these points of. Well, we've already kind of touched on this in the story section, right? But I'm gonna start off with this one. That hallway fight scene leading up to Falcone's office, / his like lounge or whatever, reminded me of that Darth Vader scene in Rogue One. I feel like it was the same vibes, same energy. They emphasized the terror that Batman brings to the underworld. My dude, you only see him because of the muzzle flashes? Come on, dude. That was dope.
Darkness, baby.
That was dope. That reminded me of that Darth Vader, like up until that scene in Rogue One, I'll be real with most like everybody listening, including you, Matt. Like I'll be real. Like, I didn't think Darth Vader was that scary in the movies up to that point. But that
was a horror scene at the end of Rogue One. That's a horror scene. I'll tell anybody. That's like they turned Darth Vader into a slasher.
On the door banging on doors, open up. And then the fellas be like, no, I can't. Hey, I'll miss you.
It's stuck. The button's stuck, man. Sorry.
Jesus. My goodness. I was like, that was my favorite scene in Rogue One by far. But that was the same vibes, like the muzzle flashes, and then him taking like that was also broly, like, I'm gonna take this Kamehameha to the face and watch it not affect me. Like him taking those gunshots, just standing there walking toward the shooter. Like, oh man, that was a dope scene. I really like how they showed how bulletproof his suit was. Like, and let's be real, definitely got some inspiration from the Arkham Asylum games, right? Like the tech in that suit.
Are we talking character designs right now?
Oh no, that's our next section. Okay. Hold on.
Right.
Just want to mention it real quick. The sound design, man. Again, it's like Matt Reeves, Peter Craig, Greg Fraser had to be fans of Batman. They had to have read the source material, because like everything they did to emphasize how much of a problem this dude was to the underworld was just like perfection. The boots, hearing his boots, the lighting, the way he steps out of the shadows, right?
He uses the shadows.
The way he uses the shadows. You know what I'll even add? The way he uses his cape.
Yeah.
We haven't seen that, not like that. Even in the Batfleck fight scene that I still contend is the best Batman fight scene of all time as of the recording of this episode, right? But like even Batfleck wasn't using his cape as a distraction, right? Like I think this is the first time we've actually seen Batman use his cape in a fight like that. I'm not talking about like him like, you know, taking his cape and wrapping it around somebody's neck. I mean like literally like waving the cape in front of you, then bow. Like, you know what I mean? Like that was some good cape usage.
Distraction.
They really thought it out to the T. This movie was visually stunning too, and this is why I wanted to highlight Greg Fraser, man, because it's like, do you ever remember seeing a Batman scene where he's in his costume like in a sunrise like that, right by the bat signal? Like there were a few scenes like that, and it's just overall the tone of Gotham is just like very gray, very wet, right? There was that one like Times Square-ish scene which they probably filmed in New York, which, you know, you had the lights from all the billboards, but it was like a dark tone, but not dark to where you can't see anything. I don't know. What were your thoughts on like this, the visual layout they were giving us, right? Like,
well, for one, you're gonna win 1,000 points with me every time for as long as Gotham is Chicago.
Yeah,
as long as they're
so much
making
Chicago.
Gotham be Chicago, I'm totally fine with it.
I also feel conflicted about that though. Like,
I don't, because it's yeah, it is. Cut the news on, brother.
hey. Like, yeah,
it's
right.
Gotham out here for real. Like, but that's a story for another time.
Real talk.
No, I felt like the city had character as well. The city is a character as well. And I think that's important. I thought it was very important that how they handled everything. Pretty much most of the aspects of this film were all really handled with a lot of care. Yeah. And what I appreciate is, and granted, you know, no matter what, all of these comic book based films will always come under scrutiny and all of that. But these are, you know, bigger blockbuster films and things like that. And I just appreciated that it felt like everybody understood the weight of this movie.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, regardless, you know, we've seen the Batfleck and all that other stuff, but like the legacy of Batman films in general, especially after Christopher Nolan, is like that bar is set pretty high.
Yeah.
So you even if you're in a situation where you aren't necessarily trying to compete or be compared, one, that's going to happen whether you want it to or not.
Yeah.
So you can't really do anything about that.
Right.
But in the same token, I think this Gotham is completely distinct from other Gothams that we've seen. And like I said, it feels like like when we first see Batman, we're seeing the character of Gotham City.
Yeah.
We're seeing what it is. Before we get our first real look at him, they're showing us Gotham City. And even throughout the film, we're seeing just with the B-roll shots of Gotham City, or just, like, it's the same thing that you see all the time whenever you see Batman and you see Gotham City portrayed in comics or in games and shit. It's perpetually raining. It's just dark.
Yep.
It just feels like something bad is even in the better parts of town. And I'm saying with air quotes,
right.
It's dark, man.
Yeah.
And it feels like even like no matter where they are, like the police station feels dark and gritty.
Can we talk about the design of that police station too? It was like why was the building so tall? What's with that Art Deco like gargoyle style, which I guess lends to
Dark Deco, brother. That's what they called it off the animated
series. The theme
series.
of Gotham, but like just so much Chicago, like so much. I was surprised how much of this was filmed in Chicago.
A ton of it.
It's like, man, I could have been on one of those sets. Just be like, oh, don't mind me, I'm a tourist. My bad. I was waiting for the L stop. I didn't know. But yeah, nah. Any other thoughts on the cinematography before we get into the character designs?
No, man. I just thought it was all great. I enjoyed the bat signal. I enjoyed just seeing the city itself. Whether it was during the day, which there are very few scenes of it during the day.
Yes.
Or whether it was at night. I just, man,
visually stunning.
I was very happy with it all the way around. I thought they, despite the fact they shot in so many places, they really do, like you said, there's a lot of Chicago in there, especially if you're like a Chicago. The opening scene is like right downtown. It's
that's the L, bro. That's literally the L.
Bro, beating the Jokers down on the Green Line stuff. Yeah. I'm like, God damn, like, what day was this? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh my God. But you can pretty much bet anytime there's an elevated rail in the US, it's Chicago. If you see an elevated rail in a movie, it's us. Oh man. Getting into the character design. And before we get too deep, Matt and I had in our episode 8, our topic of the week, we talked about our thoughts on the DCEU. And one of the things we talked about is how DC has the perfect casting, but sometimes gets messed up when it comes to directing and writing and cinematography. That was not the case here. It was like everything was like right time, right place. Just the perfect moment for this movie. Let's get into this character design. My first note started with Penguin. Listen, this version of Penguin, again, we're getting not an origin story, but we're seeing the Penguin kind of like at the start of his career. Because by the end of the movie, it's like, okay, he's about to take it to the next level, right? Because he still has his iceberg lounge, right? But dude, I feel like any portrayal, whether animated or live action of the Penguin, it's always been slight British-ish accent, right? The top hat, the monocle, so on and so forth. But this man right here was 100% gangster. You could have put him in a New York Mafia movie and I'd be like, yeah, he fits right in here. My boy Oz didn't even go by Oswald, just Oz, right? Was a 100% gangster. And again, I'm gonna reiterate what Matt said. They have got to win some type of award for their makeup department just off the strength of what they turned Colin Farrell into, man.
I want to shout out the prosthetic artist for Colin Farrell, which was David Malinowski.
Shout out Malinowski.
And the assistant prosthetic makeup designer, Michael Fontaine.
Shout out
because
Fontaine.
he was one of the key sculptors for for the prosthetics for Colin Farrell, because dude, that was a complete change. Those dudes, they knocked that completely out of the park,
man.
And then also shout out to Yoichi Art Sakamoto.
Shout out Sakamoto.
Yep, Sakamoto Days, baby, but that's another story. That's another show.
Yeah, I was just gonna. His last name is Sakamoto. That's why I said it. But I know it's going to Sakamoto Days. But yeah,
because he didn't just have physical prosthetics in terms of his face, but he had dental prosthetics as well.
Yes.
And Yoriichi Sakamoto is the person who did that for him also.
Yes.
So I just want to just make sure that those people would like, look, I don't know, it may not matter to y'all or whoever, we just some little show out here, but at the end of the day, if don't nobody else get those people credit, I cannot step away like that to me. And maybe you think I'm crazy, whatever. And at this point, I really don't care. Like that's the biggest design thing I took out of Batman. As far as character design, I was floored by nothing more than that.
Yeah. No, I agree.
But go ahead.
100%. Sorry. No, I agree, dude. Like it's in my notes. I didn't have the prop or prosthetic designer, so I appreciate you shouting them out. But it's like it was a complete transformation, and it's like also shout out Colin Farrell for the portrayal and for the choices I guess he made in how to play this character, because it's like he's known as Penguin, but he's not the Penguin. Mm-hmm. Right? He
doesn't have to ever be, really,
He's like the right-hand man of Carmine Falcone, like fully ingrained in this mafia world, right? And he plays it like he was almost the perfect, I don't want to say second-tier villain, but like the perfect other antagonist, because he really does play up that trope, like when Batman first confronts him at the Iceberg Lounge and he calls him Vengeance mockingly, and he pretends not to know who he's talking about, or he pretends not to recognize the mayor in that picture, and he actually pisses Batman off, and he like smiles, you know what I mean? Like he smiles and he's like, I got you wrapped around my little finger type vibes. So it's like, try anything else, you'll see what's gonna happen. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's like that perfect level of arrogant, but smart, if that makes sense. Right?
Colin Farrell can act, man. Colin Farrell was getting some acting on.
He knows,
put it out there.
Yeah, like he knows he played the Penguin in such a way. It's like he knows how to push the Batman's buttons just enough to rile him up, but he also knows that the Batman isn't dumb enough to do anything that big in his place, in his house. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I just thought that and then juxtaposing that with like when they're straight up firing at him and Catwoman. Well, I don't know that they saw Catwoman. They probably just saw Batman, but he like calls him a vengeance, like, you know what I mean? Like that full-on New York mobster accent just comes out like, well, he's like got the
and
the
he had a lot of and he
like,
has good character, like he did good character work. That felt like a very accurate portrayal. Like before we get too deep into character design, I do just want to point something out. Again, going back to how well everybody acted. This, like, even outside of that, and there's, the levels of ridiculousness and stuff like that, but especially for this to be a superhero movie, air quotes. And again, I have to, just because it's the closest comparison we have, bring up the Nolanverse stuff. It's incredibly grounded. Mm-hmm. It's not a lot of fantastical stuff going on.
Yeah, there's no even magic like umbrella gun.
Like, dude, even like Batman, he again 2 years in, he ain't that slick. He fucks himself up. Yeah, at a certain point, like when he was trying to escape that police station shit, I don't know how he got out of that jam, because I was like,
for sure concussed.
If I would have took that fall that he took, maybe the suit took a lot of that.
Hey, they would have just rolled credits for me.
Yeah. It was just y'all caught me. Batman's been caught.
No, that's Batman's dead. Like,
R.I.P.
After that escape, bro. Like,
nah, bro,
knocked his head into
crazy.
Whatever. I'm just like, it was just rolled credits. If I were the Batman, that would have been. He had a short career, didn't have much of an impact. All right,
his shit came to a short end.
Real talk.
For real.
I gotta make a comment on Catwoman. Okay. Mm-hmm. Why? And I gotta give a shout out to my girlfriend, because she pointed this out, and I 100% agree with her. With a suit that was that slick and looked like it was ready for action. And also, let's just talk about like that little armory she had too. And I have a note on the whole Bruce Wayne stalking her while she was changing thing that I wasn't necessarily super comfy with.
Creep lord.
It was creepy a little bit, but like there was that whole armory And
Batman's
like,
a creep though.
You know what I mean? Like she had that whole. There were like some size, she had like tons of weapons and
Bro,
gear.
it was like, is it weapons? Is she on some S&M?
Like
She a freak? What we doing up in here?
This
Bruce
girl's
was trying
arms
to
to the
find
teeth.
out.
And she has her own little cave situation going on too, man. When she like hopped out, parkoured her way to that little garage holding her bike, I was like, yo.
Yeah.
But with all that gear and that dope like cat suit she has, why was her mask the way it was? You know what I mean? I was just like,
you talking about that Yeezy season mask she had on? She had on the skull cap with the eyes cut out.
Eyes cut out, bro. And then like the little cat ear joints. I'm like, I mean, I guess she's starting out too. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, you know, because you got to think, she didn't have a name. She wasn't Catwoman. She just she was a Catwoman.
They never
She's
say
a Catwoman.
Yeah,
she's just a cat lady.
Yeah, you have a lot of cats. I have a thing for strays. Yep. You're right. But yeah, no, I think Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman, a Catwoman who's got hands, and they brought back the claws in her fingernails. Sir, perfect casting. She did a wonderful job. I'm gonna take it over to Andy Serkis as well. Actually, no, let's take it back to Catwoman too, because bro, when she makes up her mind to confront Carmine Falcone, her dad,
that way,
and then she's like I can't stop. I'm paraphrasing, right? But she's like, I can't stop crying. It's like I need a tissue, and she's got the hammer, right? Like I was like, yo, the look in her face when they get interrupted by the henchmen because the news just spilled out about the voice recording of Annika, right? Getting strangled by Falcone. The look on her face kind of gave me chills. It was cold, dude. Like this dude doesn't know how close he was to that just being like the credits rolling for him. You know what I mean? Like that.
The credits was gonna roll on somebody in that bitch soon.
Listen. She was like cold, but it was just, yeah, it gave me chills. Like just from her eyes, bro. Like there was no warmth in her eyes. It was really good. Really, really good. Shout out Zoe Kravitz. Shout out to did you get the feeling that some of her fighting was a little CG, or was it just
me? It definitely was.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay.
Like that I felt like that the little bit of that scene
in the mansion, right?
When she fights Batman for the first time.
In the mansion, yeah. I was like, was that CG? Like some of those jump kicks didn't feel
some of them jump
organic.
Kicks was looking third act of Black Panther-ish.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let it rock.
I'm
gonna let it rock.
That's a discussion
looking
for another
like
time.
a little PS2 character in that bitch for a second.
That's a discussion for another time.
Yeah, I'm gonna let it rock though.
But I'm happy we got a Catwoman who's like fighting.
That was good Catwoman. I thought she was dope. Good.
She killed it, man. Okay. Now I'm gonna switch it over. Andy Serkis as Alfred. I liked him as Alfred. What'd you think?
Andy Serkis is another person that I'm gonna say is like Jeffrey Wright. Is completely malleable as an actor. However you want him, that's what they give you. You know.
Speaking of Black Panther, he was our boy Claw.
That's actually a great transition. Yeah, you're right. Hey, Andy Serkis, the Marvel checks clearing, the DC checks clearing. If the checks clearing, he gonna be there.
Yeah,
you know. Yeah, I thought he did a good job, man. I enjoyed his portrayal. You know, the one thing I'm gonna say of all the Batman movies, and I'm even gonna throw the George Clooney joints in there. I ain't never really felt like we had an Alfred that I was like, oh, this Alfred sucks. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've never necessarily felt like we got a bad one. I never watched Gotham, so I can't really speak on that.
I tried.
I wasn't even gonna get that shit no shot.
Neither here nor there.
Right. But I felt like overall, you know, Andy Serkis can do whatever, man. Honestly, he can't do no wrong in my eyes. And, you know, even when I like saw some of the cast, you know, ahead of the film, I already knew what time it was. So I was very happy with that. Yeah.
I truly thought his portrayal of Alfred was different. I had some like the way he portrayed Alfred and the choices that they made to give him a cane and to give him some like facial scars and to show that he was like grizzled. Like I want to say compared to other versions of Alfred we had, even like the Jeremy Irons version, which I think might be the version of Alfred that may relate closest to Andy Serkis's version in terms of like the age range.
He's
close enough-ish.
I don't know, buddy, but I'm gonna let you live.
I'm not saying Jeremy Irons and Andy Serkis are the same age. I just mean like in terms of them still being somewhat youthful-ish. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I felt like this Alfred was like grizzled to the point where I was even wondering, like, wait, was he truly a butler or was he a bodyguard? Because there's that one pivotal scene, right, in the hospital where he's like, it was my job to protect him, you know, like talking about Thomas Wayne.
Yeah, so because we don't know necessarily what it is.
Exactly. And he was talking about how he taught Bruce to fight. Like, he's like, you needed a father. But all I did was like, I was there and I taught you how to fight, but you needed a father, you know? It just made me question a little bit, like there was some artistic license taken to serve the story, and it worked really well. Don't get me wrong. I'm not you know, putting any dirt on Andy Serkis's performance as Alfred. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was just curious about if they're gonna go into that in later movies or whatever, you know.
And this Alfred, the other thing I liked, and again, I now I think I get your point a little bit more, where he was more similar to kind of a Jeremy Irons. And again, the other point I'm gonna go to, and I told you this off air before as well, is that a lot of this, to a degree, felt like I was watching Batman the animated series, but live action. And what I mean by that is like Alfred wasn't really like on some butler shit as much as he was like his assistant.
He was like the man in the chair.
Yeah, the man in the chair. He's a man in the chair for him. It's like, you know, even when, you know, when he's going over, they're trying to figure out the code, they're working on it together. Yeah. That man is running the streets and he's like, hey, while you was out there doing that, I think I might have broke something down, like in this code, you know, trying to break, you know, just trying to work on
decipher.
And decipher and things of that nature. So I'm very curious to see, you know, if we ever get another one, fingers crossed, but I'm very curious to see just kind of how they flesh out more of those characters, because they create certain scenarios where they're that make you ask questions, right?
Yes.
They create these scenarios that make you want to ask questions and know more about these characters. And I think that that's really one of the best aspects of it, is the fact that we get this situation where, you know, like you said, I damn near forgot that he said, I taught you how to fight, because I was like, Raish? But, you know, again, neither here nor there. And that actually, ultimately, it doesn't matter. You know, we don't have, like, other than the fact that we know that Bruce Wayne's parents die and that at some point he became Batman and started beating ass.
Yeah.
We have no information on this Batman's background. And I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah. 100%.
You know what I'm saying? A lot of it is just implied, and I really, really, really enjoyed that.
It was a love letter to the fans. And I know we talked about this too, but I'm gonna touch on it again. But like, just Bruce Wayne. This wasn't a Bruce Wayne film. This was a Batman film.
No, this is Batman. Bruce Wayne makes a guest appearance.
Bruce Wayne was the alter ego. Yeah.
Going back to that Batman, the animated series timeline, or I guess more or less Batman Beyond, which is still in the same timeline. It was like, I always think of the scene in Batman Beyond where it's like, where Bruce got mind controlled or whatever. And he asked him, he was like, how'd you know you were mind control? And he was just like, oh, because he was internally, I was calling myself Bruce. And he was just like, yeah. He's like, that's not what I call myself.
No, he didn't even say anything. He just looked at him. Like, he just looked at him like, you know what it is.
It was like, yo, dude is gone. Like,
so this is another thing too. Like, I forget what, if it was a Justice League comic or a Batman comic, but they had all grabbed the lasso of truth to like introduce their secret identities to each other. Superman says, I'm Clark. Wonder Woman says, I'm Diana. Batman says, I'm Batman. Like that. If you don't understand the significance of what the lasso of truth is, literally an item that compels you to tell the truth.
That's his truth. His truth is he's Batman, bro. You
can't fight this with your mind. Like, yes, his literal truth is he is Batman.
And that was his truth in this movie. Yeah. His ass was Batman. There was no Bruce, bro.
No,
that was gone.
Oh, man.
And I appreciated that the whole time. 100%. I'm not going to hold you.
100%. It's like he only used Bruce when he had to. When he went to confront Carmine. Yeah, like it's not like he wanted to. It's like only when he had to. Like I'll say that in between identity is like when he's not Batman wearing the suit, but he's got his hoodie on, and you can tell he's got most of his like suit on underneath like the cargo pants and the hoodie, and he's got the eyeshadow on or whatever, right? But nah, Bruce Wayne was the alter ego, right?
Well, let's start talking about the how you felt about the Batsuit design, how you felt about the Batman design.
Man,
since we already on it.
That was straight out of Arkham Asylum, bro, in the best way possible. I will say that I love that the bat insignia on his chest was a batarang. Like that was it was like utilitarian to a T. I love that you don't get makeshift Batman abs, right? It was armor plating the whole time. I love that you don't get the Quail Man / Golden Age superhero like undies outside the tights. I love that these weren't tights. These were cargo pants. Like everything
Bro was wearing tactical armor.
Had a purpose. Exactly. It was tactical armor. Down to the shoulder pads, like down to like you could even see like some screws, some nuts and bolts, like kind of holding pieces of the armor together. Like the cowl, bro. The cowl design is like, man, what is that made out of? Some type of like carbon weave, some type of Kevlar or whatever, because it also took a few shots.
It was like he kind of had a collar a little bit.
It looked battered, but it wasn't the old Batman's got a stiff neck. No, Batman could move his neck around.
He's looking around. He's looking for revenge.
The cape was dope. The cape was dope. I like how it surprised me how much tech was packed into it, because I didn't see the squirrel suit coming. Like when he just like kind of like went like, all right, zip up, hit. No, he pulled like a like how you start a lawnmower, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like
he pulled a cord.
He pulled a cord to the side, and all of a sudden like went like full squirrel mode. And then my boy just was flying. Well, controlled falling, really, right?
My man pulled that squirrel. He pulled that squirrel suit and said, "Hi, I'm Batman. Welcome to Jackass," and jumped clean off this building and hurt himself. Like
another instance of okay, he's still not used to all this yet. But like there was so much tech packed into it, bro. We gotta talk about the contact lenses, right? Like,
we'll get to contact lenses in a second.
Okay.
Let's stay on the suit for 1 second, just because I want to jump on something. 2 things on the suit.
Yeah.
One, and this was not addressed, and I'm just one of those people. What was that big shit on his thigh?
I think that was the parachute, because I was thinking about it too. Like
it was like a big like pack on his thigh. I was just curious as to what that was, but I mean, it could have been a parachute.
I'm speculating the parachute based on like where the parachute would deploy from. I don't know if it, because like when it, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like when we saw him diving off the gargoyle, it didn't look like there was a parachute pack built into the back of that squirrel suit. But I think that part on his leg was still kind of on the outside. I could be wrong, it could be a first aid like immediate med kit or some shit like that.
That could have been, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Then the other thing, not even that I was curious, well, I guess still kind of curious about, but still going back to what you were saying about even to the point with the shoulder pads, because there's the scene when they first get shot at, when they get in that, that little bit of that action with Oswald, he puts his arm up to block.
Yeah.
And he's blocking those bullets before he kind of dives. But what's good with those arrows on that man's forearm, bro? What's up with that?
So, okay.
He never used them.
Can we talk about something else going on the arrows with the forearm? Because I like that you mentioned that. Bro, what was up with the grappling hook and that taser? Just like my boy literally has tools hidden up his sleeve. This is another thing. Is like it was packed with tech. Like whenever he'd lift his arm,
he had a bunch of shit on that forearm.
It would just like you know what I mean? Like just like kind of like deploy out of his forearm out of nowhere. You know, it was like it didn't look high tech, but it was high tech. Like
it was like the tech was advanced enough that he was a step ahead. Like he had the things that he needed.
And the cool thing, it's like there's no indication that it was him leveraging Wayne Enterprises or Wayne Tech or anything like that. Like for all we know, well, no, there's no way he built that stuff by hand. But I don't know, man. I don't know.
Shit, we don't know.
I don't know. This is another thing you said. Like a lot of things you have to infer / imply that they didn't bother explaining, and that's dope because now we're having a discussion about it. Right?
And we got to give a big shout out to David Crossman and Glenn Dillon, who are the costume designers that made this bat suit. Y'all went crazy.
Shout out to them. Shout out to them. So there was one thing too about the cowl design, especially if you compare the cowl and you isolate it from the rest of the suit. When I first saw it, I didn't like it at first. I thought it was I thought it was kind of cheap looking compared to the rest of the suit.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think one of the first comments I made when I first saw a teaser for what he was going to look like in the suit, I was like, I'm gonna need, it wasn't even that. It was when they showed, dude, I'm like that Leonardo DiCaprio meme right now where he's holding the beer can,
snapping and pointing at the
fingers.
Yeah.
When they showed him on the bike, I feel like that was like one of the first leaked images, right? It was a stunt dude on the bike, and we saw the suit, we saw the cape and cowl, and I was like, all right, this is probably going to grow on me, but also let me give it a second too, because I'm not seeing this in the movie with the movie lighting, and it works. Especially like if you look at him like full frontal, whatever, the cowl looks kind of dumb. But when you see like that 3/4 angle and it's just the right lighting, I was like, this gave me animated series vibes because the way the light plays on like the nose piece, because like it's very different from other Batman cowls in that it's not pointy. It's just like this flat piece that really serves to protect his nose. Right? If we're being honest, like everything about this had a purpose. But it's like, I don't know, man. It looked cheap, but then I really love this cowl now because it just looks right. It looks right. That's all I gotta say. Once I saw within the context of the film, I was like, this is it.
Yeah, I was very pleased with the suit. When I first saw the suit, the images leak and all of that jazz and stuff, I wasn't sold on it, but I was just like, I'm just gonna wait until I see it in action. Because some things just look better
once you see the final product.
Yeah, and I mean it's early and that's kind of why for certain things, not all things as most people know, but for certain things I kind of try to avoid spoiling those things for myself because I don't want to go in with any preconceived notion. It's like, and that's
right,
fucking nearly impossible at this point on like whatever number Batman movie this is, and like
right.
In terms of how many Batman movies I've seen and we've all seen, and just how often we even see Batman within media, because the suit is something that's always going to come under scrutiny all the time.
Most definitely.
All the time.
So everybody's just trying to make sure Bat Nibbles doesn't happen again when it comes down to it. Let's talk about Riddler real quick.
Woo! Yeah, let's talk about Hush Riddler.
Oh, my boy hit the nail on the head. I mean, it wasn't even subtle. Like, just Riddler's design, you can tell that they read or watched Batman Hush. And I'd even wager to say watched. No, actually, no, I'll say read and watched. I'll say watched because in Batman Hush, the animated version, they definitely took some liberties with Hush's origin, right? They made him Riddler, basically, which is what I'm assuming was the choice here as well. And then in Hush, the comics, like if you either read the actual issues or the trade paperback, I remember I read the trade paperback because I was like, this looks interesting. And plus it was Jim Lee. You know what I mean? Like anytime Jim Lee draws Batman, I'm like, let me check that out. Shout out Jim Lee, by the way. Like that dude's phenomenal, like what he's done for DC. And before I get too far off, right? The trench coat-ish thing, or the coat he's wearing, down to the mask he's wearing. Like Hush is known for wearing bandages around his face because Hush is also a very skilled plastic surgeon. And in the comics, he was known to even like do surgery on himself to look exactly like Bruce Wayne. Like he's literally impersonated Bruce Wayne before. But in his villain persona, he's just got the bandages all over his face. And so I remember when I originally saw images of the Riddler, I thought that was like bandages / duct tape. I didn't know that it was an actual
it was duct tape, yeah,
that he had on his face. But like once I saw that it was a mask, I was like, huh. Like he's still giving me like Hush vibes. During the movie, right? When he has that whole, when he content creates, but when when he has that whole leak, right, where he talks about the Waynes and the Arkhams and how the Waynes basically have a dark past, right? They have some skeletons in their closet that they were trying to keep under wraps. And Thomas Wayne, because there was a reporter in, I believe it was Edward Elliot, who was threatening to expose those skeletons, he collaborated with Carmine Falcone, who then, killed this reporter, Edward Elliot. And as a result of that, he now had Wayne in his pocket, right? He had dirt on Wayne, so now he could do whatever he want with Wayne. And that was also part of the fabrication with Falcone, because now he was saying, yeah, Maroni saw that this, that, and the third, I did something for Wayne and I could control Wayne. So Maroni had his parents killed. But later on, they set up where it's like, it could have been the Joe Chill figure, the legendary Joe Till, right? Who allegedly killed Thomas and Martha. Or it could have been Falcone himself or Falcone's goons. It's still up in the air. Shout out Alfred for explaining that in the hospital bed. But getting back to Riddler, right? I have a feeling that Riddler is Thomas Elliot. And then in this case, he wasn't as rich as Bruce Wayne, but he ended up being orphaned by losing his dad to this hit, which would also be additional motivation for doing what he did. But another thing that kind of counteracts that argument is the fact that when they read his ledgers, right? Because that's essentially what they are. They were filled with like ciphers and numbers, right? But he has that whole paragraph where after the officer complains about Batman touching the evidence, and like Gordon's like, he's wearing gloves. You know what I mean? Like, he reads that whole paragraph and you can hear things about like, I was like basically paraphrasing Riddler. It's like, I was trying to figure out what the point of my life was, why I've been through all these trials and tribulations. And then I stumbled upon the word renewal. And I assumed by stumbling, like he may have heard like renewal, the renewal project mentioned either in the news, or maybe he's reading an article, or maybe while he was doing a bunch of accounting, because they said he worked for an accounting firm when he was, when they were like going through his apartment, right? Mm-hmm. But I think that might be the reason why he may not be Thomas Elliot, because there's no mention of the reporter when they're actually ransacking his apartment, as opposed to like what we saw in that video. I still have a strong hunch that it might be Thomas Elliot, but like it's just like they're playing it so strong. Like they're giving us such strong hints that it could be Thomas Elliot that I'm like, all right, cool. And plus, they find multiple IDs in the Riddler's wallet, so it's like, all right, whatever. But man, what'd you think about the Riddler?
I thought Riddler was a great villain. He was a good villain to show like he was good to show one of Bruce's rogues gallery. And yeah, we've seen him in other movies before, but I thought this was probably one of the best portrayals that we've had. And shout out to Paul Dano, who played the Riddler and also had a significant hand in the character design and in the costume design as well. There's a lot of these comparisons that I've seen that he mentioned in interviews, and even that you can just draw just from watching the film. It's like, this Riddler is the Zodiac killer, basically. Just like cranked up even higher. Obviously thrown over the top because it's a comic book character, but I thought overall this Riddler was cool. I thought his kind of DIY looking costume was really good. Yeah. To be honest with you, the vibe it gave me was, it was a horror movie. This always stuck with me from when I was a kid. I want to say I Know What You Did Last Summer. Whichever one was the one where the guy had the hook, because it was almost like he was wearing like a raincoat. Like almost I think like that was I Know What You Did Last Summer, I think. Yeah. And it was menacing, man. And it was, even to see it like bogusly replicated by his like kind of followers afterward. I thought it did everything it was supposed to do. I thought everything about it was done correctly, and it served as a good foil, because at the end of the day, he even says it. He's not brawn, he's brains. Yeah. He can't beat Batman in a straight up fight. Probably can't beat anybody in a straight up fight. But again, for all the things, and that was kind of sort of like the point he was trying to get at, right?
Yeah.
For all the things that Batman can do, and for all the things Batman is able to do with his strength and all of that, he couldn't stop that city from getting flooded.
Right.
He couldn't stop a lot of different things that took place just because of the amount of meticulous planning and things that went into everything that the Riddler did. I mean, that's who the character is.
I mean, it made
top hat. We didn't get a green suit. We didn't get.
All the camp was taken out of this in the best way possible.
Gone.
It was
that
was the right choice. Yeah.
Like Riddler felt like it again, it felt grounded, it felt real. Riddler felt like a character that felt real.
Well, when I said like Riddler QAnon, I wasn't kidding. Like this, like it was the same vibes.
It felt like that could have happened for real.
Yeah. And I was gonna say too, oh man, it was escaping me just now. No, but as you were talking, like, you know what it made me think of? Baron Zemo. He just went by Zemo in Civil War. But like with time and patience, when a man, I'm paraphrasing, but he says something like, when a man possesses these things, he can do anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that my dude definitely had that in spades. Like he had to have been working for at least 2 years because he basically admitted to Batman being his inspiration. He thought, like, especially during the Brawn and Brain speech, he was basically saying like, yeah, man, we're going to be a dynamic duo. I'm glad you're here because now we can watch this together, referring to his final act and also referring to him assuming that Batman knew everything that he was about to do. But one funny comment I had, and I don't know, Matt, if you ever watch It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but Paul Dano as Riddler reminded me of, I believe, Liam McPoyle. Like, now
patience and experience. Sorry, the quote just came to me. He said, "A man can do anything if he has patience and experience."
Yes, right.
Yeah.
But nah, Paul Dano as Riddler with the bowl cut? Like that was literally just a McPoyle, like Liam McPoyle right there. Especially when he was like, I when he started like yelling, I was like, oh, this is like, you will call her. If anyone's ever watched, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
For real,
he's got that McPoyle energy, but.
Yeah, Paul Dano is another guy that's incredibly malleable as an actor. You need to look into more of his work as well. Oh gosh, man, he's a fantastic actor. I've seen him do all types of things. That was like perfect casting, but go ahead.
I will say too, like, even though it made me think of McPoyle, I thought his reaction to when Bruce is like saying, it's like, dude, this is all in your head. You're crazy. You're just going to be a loser. No one's going to remember you. And him going like, no, like freaking out. I was like, that was the right choice. I feel like that is how that character would react. I want to say, his acting was brilliant.
And I like that they did also maintain that sort of relationship Riddler has with Batman, where he thinks Batman, like, Riddler, regardless of
it's like an unrequited
trying
love
to do and stuff like that. Yeah, but he has a little bit of that megalomania, right?
Yeah.
Like he's a little bit of that, I'm the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah.
And I thought the portrayal and I thought the design and all of that, I thought it was all done really, really well.
Most definitely. Yeah. And I think the one last comment I have on Riddler was like, at the end of the day, he was just a bookkeeper / accountant. But don't sleep on bookkeepers and accountants. They see things in the numbers that other people won't see. Like he unraveled that whole renewal project off of the numbers, dude. Like,
off a ledger, bro.
Off a ledger. Like
bro, and he was going through the paper. Bro was going through ledgers from way back.
Dude.
The devil is in the details, man, for real.
Man, that works on a few levels.
Yeah, for real. Like that applies in this movie in planning, so many ways.
Yeah. Listen, like all the casting choices were great. Everybody who had a hand in this film did a great job. I feel like that's the only other thing I had in terms of character design. Oh wait, no. Okay, this wasn't in my notes, but we gotta give John Turturro his flowers. We gotta give John Turturro his flowers.
The casting was done correctly.
Come on, man. Carmine
John
Falcone?
Turturro, another malleable actor. They got all people who can act. Everybody that can act. Bro.
This dude as Carmine Falcone was legit terrifying. Like that.
I liked his portrayal. He played a slow speaking, kind of smooth, but you felt menacing Italian gangster. He's a mob head, man.
Yeah, like
what do you know? I'll be out of jail soon. Whatever, you know, that type of stuff.
That
he's not worried about
with me.
it.
Like, shout out Duke.
He's in control.
100%. Like, man, just they really knocked, like you said, they knocked it out of the park with the casting. They knocked it out of the park with the writing, the directing, the cinematography, the prosthetics, the special effects.
They gave him the scars in his face too.
Oh my goodness, man!
He got the face scratches from Selena.
Yep. Like, oh man. And then, you know what? Let's just get to the other thoughts at this point. Then we're almost at the rating section, folks. We're almost at the rating section. but okay. So these are thoughts / questions / predictions. My first thought: the way that Batman fixates on Mayor Mitchell's son throughout the whole film, like that kid is at quite a few significant events. When he discovers his dad is dead, when he's about to get run over by the truck, when Batman makes the change into a hero, he is the first person to grab his hand to, like, you know, get guided through the wreckage inside a Gotham Square Garden, which was really like the Thompson Center, right? But I feel like he might become the next Robin. Well, okay, maybe I shouldn't say that, but it's like they're planting the seeds enough to where it's like, okay, if Bruce does end up scooping him up, right? Or he becomes like a Tim Drake where he figures out Bruce's identity. I don't know. But it feels like that they're setting up in a way where it's like at least Bruce is fixated and maybe empathizes with the kid for losing his parent. But I don't know, man. He could be a Robin. And then it was just interesting, like the kid just could not catch a break throughout this whole week that this movie takes place in. Like he just lost his dad. He almost got killed. Now he's like in a stadium about to drown. like homie just could not catch a break. But I thought that they might be planting the seeds for a Robin, or at least, I don't know, man. But what'd you think?
You're not the only person that I've talked to that said that. I didn't get that vibe, man. I felt like more or less the reason that the kid was so significant was because Bruce drew so many.
He reminds him of himself.
Yeah, Bruce drew so many parallels to that. Here's this kid who loses his father. He at least still had his mom.
Yeah.
But he lost his dad to an act of violence that he even, you know, at his age, he's not going to understand.
Right.
And Bruce, I'm sure Bruce didn't understand when it happened to him. I mean, shit, if he understood, he wouldn't be a Cape Crusader. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I think more than anything, he was used almost as our vehicle. He was damn near our replacement for seeing Bruce's parents get killed. He was our Bruce Wayne origin story. You know what I'm saying?
That's a good call out.
That was kind of how I felt. That's how I felt. That's what I felt that kid's role in the film was. He was our Bruce Wayne.
That lends itself, so he could be a Robin. like
shit, I mean, yeah.
Like he might just pick up a cape and cowl himself, and then Batman's like, "What are you doing, kid? We're doing it this way, right?"
Yeah,
but he could be a Robin
eventually become
recruited by different means. It's not necessarily that Bruce is going to adopt him. It's just like,
I'm totally open to that shit changing up and switching and things
because they're already taking artistic license with Batman's origin, right? With the little that they gave us. I thought the shotgun blast to the chest by that Elmer Fudd Riddler dude was interesting. You know what I'm talking about, bro.
Yeah.
But he
I know exactly what you're talking
was
about.
That like we talked about this offline too, and I remember
hit his ass with that like, share, subscribe.
but did Batman inject himself with concentrated adrenaline, or was it Venom?
Isn't Venom concentrated adrenaline? No, I mean, I'm just gonna say it could have been if they said that he used like some small version of it or whatever, or something that will eventually become Venom. Cool. When I saw it though, I just felt like he shot himself in the leg with adrenaline.
I thought it was adrenaline too. I mean, if we're gonna go ahead.
You throw a little plot armor on it. It's just adrenaline, because adrenaline, even in that situation, would not have got him up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But we also are talking about Batman, so.
Right.
you know,
dude has trained his mind.
Sometimes that's all you need. Sometimes that's all you need, man. And so,
I mean, I'll throw another theory out there too. If we're gonna throw Venom, why don't we throw in well, shout out to the Arrowverse. I can't believe I just said that. But Deathstroke serum, like Mirakuru or whatever, like he has in him that like turned him into Deathstroke, right? Like, did he shoot himself up with that? I also like how the dude's so prepared. He had a little port in his suit to inject the stuff.
Yeah, because he knew what time it was. Look, man, you can't be out there literally putting yourself like against the odds constantly. Like this dude is always putting himself in harm's way, like against all odds. It's me versus 6 niggas in a hallway with machine guns.
Okay, I'm gonna throw something else at you too. Wouldn't it be cool to see if there were other versions of the suit? Meaning like this was the fun, because he's been doing it for 2 years. Did he have that suit ready to go out the gate? Like, was he ready for all scenarios? Like, because, you know, Batman's on his preparedness.
I mean, this is probably
seasoned Batman. I feel like he iterated on the suit after like every significant encounter or something like that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's what I felt like. I felt like this suit was a culmination of the things he's had to deal with so far.
Right. Like
these are the things he knew he was going to have to prepare for. And if Bulletproof was not at the very top of that list, I don't know what else.
I feel like he might have started with Bulletproof, right? I don't think he had Flying Squirrel suit out the gate.
Bro,
I don't think he had the adrenaline port out the gate. Like, I feel like
that man got a pistol pulled on him damn near every time he showed up.
Can we talk about grappling hook through somebody's leg? Well, that's okay. Woo! That's no guns, right? But he'll shoot a grappling hook through somebody. But anyway, also talking about Elmer Fudd, not the Riddler, just the cartoon character. It just made me think, wait, Elmer Fudd's been hunting with a shotgun this whole time. Like,
wildin'.
Why? Like, how does he have any usable meat left? That's neither here nor there. Still Warner Brothers. But okay. Yeah. Talked about the Riddler and McPoyle, right? But okay. So it's like basically Batman's existence. Let me know what you think about this theory right here. In this movie is what gives birth to the first generation of supervillains.
Yeah, I mean, there's always that theory, right? That like
his existence, right?
Yeah, there's always that theory that like this happens because of him. He's the conduit. Batman is a conduit for craziness. Yep. But I would argue, you know, Riddler didn't show up because of Batman.
Well, so
Riddler is not a result of Batman. Riddler is a result of the corruption in the city and all the other stuff. But so is Batman. But I think
Batman inspired him. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think the conduit for trouble in general is just Gotham. Like I said, Gotham is a whole character in this film.
Yeah.
So, you know, it just felt like overall, all of this, because again, like he's mad at Thomas. He's not mad. You gotta remember, like, even when Batman comes into contact with Riddler, when he comes into contact with Riddler, even when he's already in Arkham, it's not about Batman. It's about the city paying. Yeah. It's about the politicians paying, everybody that was involved. Yeah. He's just taking Batman on a ride.
Well, because he knows thought of Batman as his partner. Like, remember, he thought Batman was his partner. It's like, we're doing this together. Look at him. Yeah, we're doing this. I didn't have the brawn. That's where you came and helped me out.
Yeah, we're doing this on two different ends. That was how I looked at it. So I didn't take it as Batman drew him out. He definitely had a hand in it, but that shit was more about how he was feeling.
Well, this is something I couldn't remember. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like by the time that first murder happens in the movie, was the Riddler already established as the Riddler? Like, I couldn't remember if he had a pre-existing crime streak.
No, this was his first one.
This is his first one. And then he just, in the car, did he dub himself as the Riddler? Because I couldn't remember.
The city dubs him as that. He doesn't go necessarily by anything. They start calling him the Riddler because he just is using that question mark.
Yeah.
But there's riddles in everything that he does. Yeah. Remember the first, because he's even going through it saying that like this is all going to come to an end at such and such point. But he was starting with the mayor. The mayor was his first body.
Right. I just couldn't remember. Like, no, all the other stuff makes sense. I just couldn't remember if he had already been established as the Riddler, or if that was the part
Riddler's not established yet, because his literal first appearance is when we see him in the movie.
Okay,
that was how we know. That's how he
really did cause
all
this smoke in 1 week.
In a week, bro, he's a dog. He's an absolute dog.
So then, next thought I had, right? And this is kind of a funny one, but maybe I already mentioned this during the discussion. I've said it so many times, but you could almost hear Batman's butthole unclench when he realized that Riddler didn't know that he was Bruce Wayne. You can see the relief in his eyes.
Because I was just like, uh-oh. I said, his camera's in here. He needs to shut up. He kept on saying it.
This is another thing we talked about offline too, but it's like that whole conspiracy theory wall is still up in his apartment. Somebody on Gotham PD is going to put 2 and 2 together. Like, it wasn't even close. Like, it wasn't even hidden, dude. Like, it was all like, Batman, the real you, like Bruce Wayne. I was like, somebody is going to see all the pieces there. Like, Batman could at least take his, like, trusty bat spray paint that he probably has in his utility belt and just spray across it or something. I don't know.
But you never know. I mean, look, when everybody is focused on the people, no one's thinking about who Batman is, because everybody is worried about, this motherfucker flooded a city.
Right. But he
flooded a major city, bro.
Look, hey, Matt, there was some like convenient blindness. That's all I'm saying.
Look, man.
Obviously.
But check this out.
Obviously,
that's what the whole shit was about. That was Riddler's whole point. It's a lot of convenient blindness around.
We went through
bitch.
unseen.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a whole lot of convenient blindness. That was his whole thing. And I think just his plot in general, I'm way less worried about who Batman is when the mayor gets killed.
Right.
I'm way less worried about who Batman is when a police commissioner gets killed, when a captain gets his head blown up on Instagram Live. I'm a lot less worried about Batman right now, because last time I checked, Batman out here, putting motherfuckers in the ICU, but Batman is not out here wilding like that. You know what I'm saying? So
right. Speaking of the mayor getting shot, I didn't like that the dark-skinned black woman who was the mayor-elect getting shot. I didn't like that. Like,
I didn't like that they called her Riel, and I'm looking at Real being real. Yeah, what are you talking about? Yeah. But whatever.
Well, but I didn't like that, and the fact that with all the crime going on in Gotham that they show in the opening, it's the gang of colored folks that get beat up by Batman first. You know what I mean? Like,
they weren't. Look,
that was a choice.
I didn't get the feeling that they was all colored people. I felt they was all in face paint. They was all wearing face paint, brother. I don't know. I don't know that they was black. I only know one dude was kind of.
Matt, they were black and brown for sure. Like, Matt.
Look, listen, it was real. Brother, stop Asian hate energy in the beginning. That's all I'm saying.
Right. But brother Matt, brother Matt.
It's dark in the theater. I don't know. I can't say.
Hey, this comes from the dude who was talking about how Brock is black because he holds his hand up to the screen. Like, come on, bro. Anyway, moving on. We talked about how there's so much to go. Oh, shout out to Arkham Asylum and the Riddler trophies, bro. And then shout out to just getting URL after Penguin like called them out on their stupidity for El Rata Alada. Getting URL from that is the exact reason why I never found all the Riddler trophies in the Arkham games, because I am not that clever. But man, shout out Detective Batman, bro. That's all I gotta say. Shout out to him. Shout out Martinez too for like getting the carpet tucker. I think we talked about that earlier, but I gotta mention it again.
Look, there was a lot of good detail. There was a lot of good detective work. I think we got a lot of just good things overall. We got a lot of the things that even, off air and things like that we had discussed. We got a lot of those things.
Most definitely.
So I just got to ask you, TJ, how you feel about the movie overall? Like, how many batarangs you giving this?
Before we get to the batarangs, I got to make one more comment, and I think you'll agree on this, right? We got to give a shout out to Cody Garbrandt and apparently his twin brother for making an appearance in this movie. I didn't even know he was cast in the film,
Ooh,
but there he was, and there were two of them.
They got banged on in there. Hey,
all
if that's
respect
what
to
it
Cody
leads
Garbrandt.
you to,
All
that's
respect
what
to
it
Cody
go
Garbrandt.
to. Yeah, shout out Cody Garbrandt.
I just thought it was kind of funny. But
dude definitely did look like the guy that played those twins definitely resembled Cody Garbrandt.
It was a strong one, something, especially you got in all the neck tattoos and stuff. But back to the rating, bro. I'm gonna give this in terms of 5 batarangs, 4.9. I could give it a 5. I'm open to giving it a 5. It's just like in terms of a Batman movie, especially taking into consideration our last episode, or episode 8, like this delivered in terms of Batman in a lot of ways. Like we have not had a Batman film like this at all. What'd you think, man? How would you rate it?
You know, if I actually had to just give it a rating, which I do, I'm a rock with it on a 5.
Yeah,
I'm gonna give it a 5.
I'm not mad at that at all.
5 batarangs out of 5. And just I'm gonna keep my final thoughts on it brief. I felt like just because the casting was done very well, this is one of the better Batman portrayals we've had. Now, obviously, recency bias is a big thing,
right?
So I'd have to go back. But in terms of a singular Batman movie, if we never get another Batman out of this universe again, which we obviously
I doubt it.
I doubt that we won't, just considering all the spinoffs and shit are already starting to get greenlit.
The box office numbers, I mean, come on. But
it's undeniable. But it just, but also DC. Remember that.
True.
Going all the way with it, I think I would just give it 5 out of 5. I felt like all the actor portrayals were done correctly. The casting was done very well. The suit, all movies have their little faux pas and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like in terms of what I got, that movie is called The Batman, and that's what the fuck I saw. I saw The Batman.
Yeah.
That's what I got a chance to see. I didn't have to see, I didn't see a rogue that I hadn't seen before, but I saw one in a way where it was portrayed in a way that we would want to see it.
Yes.
In a way that was more modernized, a lot more contemporary, and a lot more grounded. And that really just, I was giving all the things I had on my checklist that I wanted to see in a Batman movie. I got them. So for that, if no other reason, it gets 5 batarangs for me. What about you?
I agree with everything you just said. And for me, it's just, for one,
other than the Catwoman mask, that shit was ass.
Yeah, the mask was like, especially like put together with that suit, it didn't make sense. Like,
I'm like, what is this? What is this Tyler Creator ski mask you doing?
Okay. But so like, but no, dude, it's like it hit everything and then some. I still this will be my final thought. I still like Ben Affleck as Batman, but I'm gonna give Robert Pattinson his flowers. Mm-hmm. Ben Affleck, in my opinion, has the best chin, but Robert Pattinson's chin ain't no slouch in that cow. I was actually surprised by how much I was like, yo, he's got a good chin. The chin is important. Listen, it's like we're talking about DC superheroes or superheroes in general. That chin is important. It projects strength, right? And if you think I'm being foolish just focusing on the chin, you don't know about superheroes. Like, that's what I'm gonna say. But no, Robert Pattinson had a good chin, good vibes as Batman. Dude, the ending scene riding away on the motorcycle, that was like that was icing. I don't know how to explain. Like if you made it this far to the rating section, and let's say you had your doubts about seeing the movie and you just like listen to all these spoilers, go see it, man. Even with the spoilers, you're still gonna have a good time. It was just good, man. I'm gonna bump my 4.9 to 5. Like that, I don't feel like it needs improvements per se. Just everything, like it's like when you watch a Marvel film and it's like, okay, you can tell that, Kevin Feige was looking over this and like the director and the writers actually care about the source material. Like, this movie felt like a love letter to the fans of the comic books, if I'm being 100% honest. And like, I felt it, I saw it. Yeah, I got nothing else to add other than thank you guys for listening to our first review. Every time we see a movie that hits the culture, or at least stuff we like, we'll try to get a review out there. But thank you guys for listening, for rocking with us. If you're coming from like Reddit, Instagram, one of the podcast platforms, whatever,
or just on YouTube, and
or
you
just
came
on
across
YouTube,
us.
like we appreciate you. Like, just thank y'all. You got anything else you want to say, Matt?
Please please share, please give us a follow. You can check us out on whatever your preferred platform for podcasts are. Mm-hmm. That's more likely where you can find us at Now Mind You Pod. I appreciate you guys listening. We enjoy doing these. As always, we also will take, we look for the criticism, we look for the constructive. And, if you want to be an asshole and be non-constructive, that's fine too. Like,
it's engagement.
It's engagement, right? If that's how you feel. But, we're always open to any criticism, any commentary, anything like that. But I'm just appreciative to anybody that listens and, just shares your time with us and checks out our thoughts on the show. So, or just checks out our thoughts on any shows, any movies, whatever. So I'm appreciative of it.
Thank y'all. And on that note, we'll see you next episode. Peace.
Peace out.